You're watching News Mongolia on MNB World, and I'm your host, Jargal Mar Jargal. Our top stories for today. The first section of the Boruljut power plant is to be operational in October. The 7th International Horsehead Feral Festival commenced in Datlan-Zatratsom. Danshignadam Khuretsam 2024 to be held on August 3rd to 4th. For the news, stay tuned. Ulaanbaatar City has issued bonds worth 500 billion Mongolian Tugruks for the first time on the domestic capital market and invested 300 billion Mongolian Tugruks in the Boruljut power plant, located about 120 kilometers from Ulaanbaatar in Bayıncaratlansom province. The plant is said to have a total capacity of 600 megawatts across 4 sections. The first 150 megawatt section is expected to be operational by October 2024. Currently, 72% of the work on the first section is completed, including the installation of GIS 220 kilowatt outdoor switchgear equipment and the assembly of 85% of the coal bunker for the boiler. Construction is ongoing for buildings housing essential equipment like air compressors and wastewater pumps.
Our Boruljut power plant has 4 sections, each with capacity of 150 megawatts, totaling 600 megawatts. In the first section, 2 units of 150 megawatts each, totaling 300 megawatts, are currently under construction and equipment installation. Overall, more than 60 buildings are being successfully built. According to our plan, we aim to put the first 150 megawatt section into operation in the first half of October this year.
The construction of the Boruljut power plant consists of 4 sections. The second section is planned to start operating in 2025. Once both sections are operational, the Boruljut power plant aims to produce up to 2.1 billion kilowatt-hour of electricity annually.
We are working to commission 50 megawatts and 200 kilomegawatts hour power plants before this winter. Ulaanbaatar City currently experiences a shortage of 200 megawatts during peak hours. We plan to address this issue by adding 50 megawatts battery power plant to the first 150 megawatt section of the Boruljut power plant to compensate for the shortfall. As a result, Ulaanbaatar City should not face any energy problems this winter.
With the commissioning of the battery power plant, excess energy can be stored. The stored energy is planned to be used during peak hours.
This marks the first time in Ulaanbaatar City history that it has traded bonds worth 500 billion MNT and invested 300 billion MNT in the Boruljut power plant. Additionally, a tender for a 50 megawatt battery power plant will announce this month. These initiatives aim to meet the city's growing energy demands.
According to information provided by the city authorities, Ulaanbaatar City will not face energy restrictions this winter and is working to increase energy sources in the future. Under the auspices of the President of Mongolia, the 7th International Horsehead Feral Festival, featuring the traditional Mongolian horsehead feral, is being held in Datlan-Zatratsom of Umungwe Province from July 16th to 22nd, 2024. Since its establishment in 2008, the World Moronkhor Association has organized this event every 5 years.
The festival's opening ceremony took place on July 16th of 2024 at the Musical Drama Theatre in Datlan-Zatratsom. Performers included the Moronkhor Ensemble of Mongolia, which holds the prestigious Order of Chinggis Khan, as well as artists from the Musical Drama Theatre, young Moronkhor musicians, and traditional Mongolian long song singers.
This year, the International Moronkhor Festival is being held under the auspices of the President of Mongolia for the first time. Remarkably, this international festival is hosted in the rural area of Mongolia, Umungwe Province, which is home to many famous Moronkhor players. The 7th International Moronkhor Festival features 3 international contests, namely the Contest of Professional Moronkhor Players, the Contest of Moronkhor Enthusiasts, and the Contest of Moronkhor Crafters, taking place simultaneously with over 170 participants. This International Moronkhor Festival holds great significance in preserving, promoting, and developing the Moronkhor.
During the ceremony, honored cultural artists of Mongolia and organizing committee members Sirglem Bolt conveyed greetings from President of Mongolia Khurelsukh Khokna to the attendees and introduced Jigjitorch Nanzatorch, the President of the World Moronkhor Association.
Today, Moronkhor enthusiasts, professional artists, and researchers from around the world have gathered in Umingol Province, Mongolia. Representatives from the United States, Japan, Germany, China, and Russia are participating in the 7th International Moronkhor Festival. In countries such as United States and many others, Mongolians have established Moronkhor clubs to teach this unique musical instrument. The participation of children from these clubs is a highlight of this festival. The Moronkhor is the only musical instrument inherited from our ancestors. I am grateful to be born a Mongolian. I have trained many Moronkhor players. This year I celebrate my 81st birthday. When I first arrived in Mongolia, I was 40 years old. I am proud to see that the whole country, from the President of Mongolia to every Mongolian citizen, is honoring and developing the Moronkhor. Therefore, I will also contribute to this vital endeavor. We must continue efforts to promote our invaluable cultural heritage, the Moronkhor, to the world.
Umingol Province is a leader in Mongolia in the development of the horsehead fiddle, having produced many renowned players and craftsmen. The province regularly hosts national horsehead fiddle competitions to foster this cultural heritage. In line with the presidential decree to honor and promote the horsehead fiddle, this year's festival has attracted players from various countries, expanding its international scope. The event, a vital platform for promoting the two-stringed instrument that is a source of national pride, has brought together over 170 horsehead fiddle musicians and craftsmen.
Now let's take a look at Mongolian current affairs. The Danshignadam Khuretsam 2024, the unique cultural and religious festival of Mongolia, will be held on August 3rd to 4th, 2024 at the Huidotlan Hodok, the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar city. So far, more than 2,000 tourists have made reservations to observe the festival jointly organized by the Ulaanbaatar City Council, the Governor's Office and Tourism Department of Ulaanbaatar City, and Kandandikchlang Monastery. During the Danshignadam Khuretsam 2024, a variety of fascinating events will take place, including races for Hizatlang or 4-year-old horses, and Ikhnas or horses older than 6 years, Tsam dance performances, mandala offering ceremony, art performances, and a horse show. Additionally, visitors can experience the Torma making competition, the competition of chanting masters and assistant chanting masters, traditional Mongolia, Buryat, and Inner Mongolian wrestling, a display of traditional Mongolian attire, national archery, traditional knuckle bone shooting competition, mounted archery, and the bone breaking contest.
During the Naadam Festival from July 9 to 13, a total of 357,000 vehicles passed through 6 toll collection points around Ulaanbaatar. Drivers have various options to pay for their road usage through applications such as e-Zam.mn, e-Mongolia, e-Beremt, Toki, Most Money, or at Girege Kiosk. The Minister of Road and Transport Development has announced plans to fully digitize 32 toll collection points across Mongolia by 2024.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Next, our program will turn our attention to foreign news, partnered with international news agencies. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz reiterated support for Ukraine on Thursday, but rejected Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's demand to lift the restrictions on the use of Western-supplied weapons on Russian territory.
Speaking at a media briefing at the European Political Community meeting in Blenheim Palace, Scholz said that he sees such a consensus and such steps are out of the question and that the USA is also very clear on this. Scholz described the meeting of more than 40 European heads of state and government at the EPC summit as a pretty clear commitment against the Russian war of aggression on Ukraine in his closing speech. The whole of Europe, with the exception of Belarus and Russia, stood together against Russian imperialism, said Scholz. The Chancellor assured Ukraine of further support for as long as it's necessary. Scholz announced an international initiative to take stronger action against Russian oil exports with old tankers. Moscow is trying to export oil and finance the war against Ukraine with fairly old tankers that it procures on the world market via straw men, noted Scholz. He added that these sole sellers are a risk to the safety of maritime shipping and, of course, to seas and environment. When asked whether he feared that transatlantic cooperation or support to Ukraine could suffer if Donald Trump becomes the next U.S. president, the Chancellor said that there would be many governments on both sides of the Atlantic that would continue to work together in the coming decades.
The European Central Bank left its key interest rate benchmark unchanged Thursday as its rate-setting council and President Christine Lagarde take their time to make sure stubborn inflation is firmly under control before lowering rates again.
The decision leaves the deposit rate at 3.75%, where it has stood after a single quarter-point cut rate at the previous meeting on June 6th. That means home buyers and businesses hoping for lower interest rates in Europe are going to have to wait at least until the bank's September meeting for more affordable credit and possibly even longer than that.
The question of September and what we do in September is wide open and will be determined on the basis of all the data that we will be receiving. Obviously, our projection from June will be a point of reference, but the projection of September plus all the other elements that we will be receiving will be taken into account to decide what we do in September.
The ECB, Federal Bank of England, and other central banks around the developed world sharply raised rates to quell an outburst of inflation that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the end of the pandemic.
I'm not going to speculate on political development, particularly as election processes are underway and sometimes under dramatic circumstances. Of course, we have to take into account the consequences of, for instance, the increase in tariffs, or policies that are determined outside of the euro area by any country with which we have either strong trade or financial links. And obviously, given the size of the US financial markets in particular, the developments taking place in the United States will be very carefully assessed to see what consequences it might have on the European Union and on the euro area in particular. All I can do at this point in time is offer my congratulations for the re-election by such a margin, but of course we will look very attentively at what the proposals are at the European level.
Higher rates make it more expensive to borrow money, spend and invest, cooling off demand for goods and historically the upward trend for consumer prices. The ECB can point, however, to a strong jobs market with low unemployment as a sign that higher rates are not sending the economy into a recession.
A police officer was wounded in a knife attack in Paris on Thursday in the Champs-Élysées neighborhood, and the assailant was immediately neutralized, authorities said, just days before the opening ceremony of the Summer Olympics.
French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said the attack happened in the 8th arrondissement of Paris while police were responding to a call from officers securing a store. The perpetrator was immediately neutralized by police officers. He posted on platform X expressing his unwavering support to the victim. An official with knowledge of the police case said the assailant was still alive and that officers prevented him from taking further action. The official spoke on condition of anonymity because he wasn't allowed to disclose details about the case. Thursday's knife attack comes just days after a man stabbed and wounded a French soldier patrolling Paris on Monday outside the Gare de l'Est train station in eastern Paris. The man was taken to a psychiatric hospital according to French prosecutors. The city has been under a high security alert before the start of the Paris Games on July 26th. Darmanin is staying on a caretaker role at the Interior Ministry until a new government is formed in the wake of legislative election earlier this month.
Now let's take a look at international current affairs.
Lawmakers at the European Parliament have re-elected Ursula von der Leyen to a second five-year term as President of the European Union's Executive Commission. The re-election ensures leadership continuity for the 27-nation bloc as it wrestles with crises ranging from the war in Ukraine to climate change, migration and housing shortages. A majority in the 720-seat legislature voted for the German Christian Democrat after a speech in which she pledged to be a strong leader for Europe in a time of crisis and polarization. The secret ballot came hot on the heels of strong gains by the far right in last month's election for the European Parliament. Von der Leyen said she will never let the extreme polarization of our societies become accepted.
Now let's take a look at weather forecast for world major cities. Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you next Monday with more news and updates. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.